Welcome back to Punching the Clock podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We are here for a brand new episode coming in after UFC 288. Got my two spectacular co-hosts here, best co-hosts on the planet. Mr. Hayden Luz checking in here. A bit of a victory Monday for you. I mean, you called one fight. One fight. I'm not giving you any extra credit because you said Sterling might win. Because, you know, it's all in or all out.
No. I was definitely all in on Henry.
All right. How you feeling? Just nice and quickly. How you feeling on this Monday for you?
Hey, can't complain. Nobody really listens. You know how that ball rolls. I'm just excited to be talking to the lads again. You guys have been quite quiet, so I feel like we have a lot to talk about because we haven't really discussed it much. So, high-powered offense coming at you real quick.
Saving it for the pod. That's what we were doing. And Mr. Jens, this is total loser Monday for you and I. I mean,
is it? I don't know.
I mean,
this is familiar territory for Jens.
On the podcast, I did say Gilbert.
Monday.
Oh, on the podcast, I said Gilbert was going to win, but the Thursday or Friday before the fight,
you tried switching your mind, and we denied it.
I changed my mind. I posted on TikTok. I said Belal Muhammad is going to beat Gilbert Burns by decision. It's on the record.
Wow.
All right. If you didn't say on the podcast, it doesn't count because as of in this sphere of existence on the podcast, you picked Gilbert Burns, you picked Henry Cejudo, so did I.
It's not canon. It's not canon on the podcast.
But all right, we live and we learn. So what we're gonna do in this episode, guys, we're gonna talk about the UFC 288 main card. Really focus our attention on that because obviously we got a bit duller. Actually, the UFC card, UFC Charlotte this weekend is not looking too bad, but I don't think the viewers care too much to hear us talk about Rosenstruck versus Almeida. So we're going to focus our attention here. And at the very end, we'll talk about some fan questions. And boys, if you have any beefs of the week, we'll get to that at the end as well. Do you guys have any beef of the weeks?
I'll come up with them, but
there's always one to come up with.
There's always something to say. Always something to bitch about.
We'll start with the main event here, guys. Henry Cejudo versus Aljamain Sterling. Obviously, Sterling wins a split decision over Henry. Real quick, scorecards were pretty screwed up. Hey, I don't know if you guys saw that, but the round that ultimately won Sterling the fight was round 5 on Derek Cleary's scorecard, which
that didn't make sense.
Was not a fan of that at all.
I think no matter what, he deserved to win, but in that, the scorecards were still messed up.
Agree. I thought 2 and 5 was clear Henry, in my opinion, anyways.
Yeah, I don't know about. I personally gave. So I'm a horrible scorer. I'm just going to say that, but I feel like giving Henry. Like saying that's a clear round for Henry for 2. Well, I don't know. 2 wasn't clear. 5 was pretty clear. 2 could go to Henry. 5 was like kind of inexcusable to give to Aljamain Sterling. It's like, come on.
Well, one could have went Henry's way, but I think right towards the end, Aljo kind of swung it and took it in his favor. So I think one went to Aljo as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Personally, I scored it 1-2-3 for Aljo, and that's just enough to win. He could have even won the 4th round, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think I gave him the 4th.
I did 1-2-4 for Sterling.
Yeah,
either way,
I think it went 1-3-4 for Sterling.
On my second viewing live, I was like, "Oh, Cejudo 50-45," just being the ultimate hater.
It's hard to live score, but just to get into this, guys, we'll get into this fight here. I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys think Aljamain Sterling? He's now a 3-time UFC bantamweight champion. It's all crazy how we've got here based on him, winning the belt in the fashion that he did, obviously. But the series of fights that he's had as a champion, they've been very interesting, to say the least. And you guys talked about this pretty well on last week's episode. But do you guys think, based on how we got here, do you think like Henry Cejudo and also TJ and Jan and these guys that he's been facing, do you feel like everyone's been kind of underestimating Aljamain Sterling?
So, Jens, if you don't mind, I feel like they all kind of did in their own way, but it wasn't like, oh, looking past Aljo on to the next type of deal, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, to start off with TJ, right? I feel like he's one of the weaker examples where you could say he overlooked him. He went in there with a horrible injury. That's why you could say, oh, yeah, he probably overlooked him because he went in there like that. But I think it was more or less he just wanted to show up to compete, right? So I don't think TJ really overlooked him in that aspect. And then you look at Henry, and it's a yes and a no deal for me anyways, because it's like I feel like Henry is just so confident in his skill set just alone, let alone the 3 other competitors he beat, that I feel like aren't to the level that he beat as it is, like the TJs of the world and stuff like that. And what was the last guy I had here?
Jan.
And Jan's my biggest one where I feel like he definitely overlooked him because of all the success he had in the first fight. He was like, oh, I'm going to go in there and just run through him. and he kind of got neutralized through 1, 2, and 3, and didn't have enough time to get. Yeah, I'm not gonna say he ran out of time, but Aljo was able to capitalize in rounds 1, 2, and 3 over Jan being over eager, thinking he was going to be able to take him out so quickly. So I feel like if I had to submit one candidate to say he did overlook him, it would be Jan.
Well, I feel like with TJ, the fact that he did, do you think TJ with one arm goes in there against like Jan? Like I feel like he just felt like so confident in his defensive wrestling that he
because it was for a belt, yes.
I think I think he shows up no matter what for the paycheck, for the at least the opportunity to try and win it.
Well, I think TJ's a really big competitor.
Yeah, Jens, do you think Henry Cejudo overlooked Aljamain Sterling?
I don't think so.
Not even just based on what he said, but just on how he fought in the cage. Do you think he did?
I don't think it was necessarily overlooking him. I think it might have just been a not the best executed game plan. I just feel like I don't know. I think a lot of people point to like the stuff that he was saying, like, oh, I'm going to be ready for this, I'm going to be ready for that, and calling him all these nicknames as an example of him overlooking him. But, I mean, that's just Henry Cejudo doing what he does.
Yeah, for sure.
That's just the nature of the fight game. So, no, I don't think he was overlooking him. Like I said, I just think he was not ready for the length and the kind of distant management tools that Aljo was kind of throwing his way. I don't think he was completely prepared for it.
I kind of agree and disagree with you. Like, just
right, me too.
Like, and both of you, I feel like if he was more like, I don't feel like he just expected to. I think Aljo's pressure surprised him in a sense, and in a way he kind of overlooked Aljo's ability to pressure him, because the way he kind of approached that and the solutions that he came up with in the first round to deal with that pressure made me think that he thought that Aljo's chin he would find his chin pretty easily, just in terms of him really hanging out in that mid-range, which we agreed that he couldn't stay there. And
especially later in the fight, especially later in the fight as well.
I thought all fight he really hung out in that mid-range for them, like a lot more than I thought he would, and he really felt like he could just fight off the back foot and pick off Aljo with a big shot. But Aljo, to his credit, and I owe Aljo a lot of credit for this, he honestly, since the first round of the Jan fight, where he kind of just got caught with that right hand and dropped, he hasn't really been hit with like no huge punch has really found his chin. Like, he does a really good job of just avoiding those big shots, and he gets hit pretty hard to the body, and he's durable, but he does a pretty good job in that sense. I think Henry didn't expect Aljo to be able to do that. I also don't expect, just based on how he was kind of open to getting pressured and didn't come in with such an overwhelming game plan to deal with the pressure, that he wasn't super worried about getting taken down alongside the fence, and Aljo proved he could do that.
Yeah, I think a lot of it to do is with the funkiness of Aljo as well. To tag along with like distance management and all that other stuff. It's Henry said it himself. It's like there are just some of those fighters, like Wonder Boy, for example, where it's like you can't just call one of the guys to come down and be like, hey, can you try to emulate this guy? Yeah. Aljo's just one of those guys. It's hard to get bodies to emulate and get ready for, on top of the tools and attributes he adds onto that as well. So it's I don't want to say it was a lack of a game plan from Henry, like you said, Jens. I think it was more of a better execution of Aljo's game plan onto Henry.
Well, that's what I tried to specify with. I tried to specify with because it wasn't like a lack of a game plan. I just felt like it was a lack of execution. I don't feel like he did.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying. I don't think it was a lack of execution. I just think Aljo showed a better game plan and just implemented his better, just generally spoken. Okay.
So with that being said, Jens, what do you think's the storyline of this fight? Do you think it's more of like on Sterling's side of him like cementing himself, like you can't say anything anymore, he's the best matchman on the planet, or do you think the story's more, this is Cejudo coming back after 3 years, 36 years old. Guys at that age don't do too well in title fights. There was that stat going around that they were over 35 or 36. They're like 2-29. Do you think that's a story, him having ring rust? Do you think it was Aljo? What do you think?
I think it might have been a little bit of both. I think, like, is this... I don't think you can say it's the same Cejudo that fought Dominic Cruz or TJ and whatnot. It's just naturally just getting older. But however... I mean, it's not like he was just sitting on his couch for 3 years and doing all this stuff. Like, he's been training some of the best fighters in the entire world. So he said it himself, his mind has become, sharpened over the years, and he's still physically in great shape. So I don't think it was anything with him being older. I just think it's just Aljamain Sterling just
Mhm.
being
You don't think it had anything to do with Cejudo being older? That
okay,
had to play a factor.
maybe a little bit, but I think a lot of it just comes down to just Aljamain Sterling just being like a big, just kind of enigma for people. Just it's so
Yeah,
hard to figure him out
yeah,
with how weird he is, and he does certain things like he kind of reminds me of Charles Oliveira in this sense, where him and Charles Oliveira do certain things that they can only get away with because they're them. And what I mean by that is so like one thing Charles does, as we all know, is if he gets any sort of hurt, he kind of just falls on his back, and he knows that people are not going
Won't
to
follow him down.
right. They're not going to go down there with him because he's extremely dangerous on the ground. And I feel like Aljamain Sterling has that little bit of a game plan where whenever a big shot's coming at him, he crutches down, he gets into that turtle position, and ultimately, what are you going to do there? Are you going to take his back and risk, him maybe falling into your guard and he gets top position now? Are you going to just try and risk getting leg locked when he rolls into it? Like there's a bit of risk in there, and so I feel like that turtle position that he kind of falls into gives him time to kind of rest, kind of
yeah.
recuperate. So I feel like he finds just these opportunities to kind of have these moments of rest and to kind of score some control time. And he just does little things to kind of just edge out decisions.
I'm glad you gave him. I'm glad you gave Aljo his flowers, because I want to talk about the other end of the spectrum, because
Yeah.
I think, without a doubt, being active matters, no matter what Dominic Cruz says, and maybe he's just an enigma, but it matters in my opinion. Like there's just little details that I think Henry just wasn't sharp on, like just stuff with. We've always praised how good his ring generalship is, and always just so disciplined when. Like, let's say you're in an open stance fight and you throw your rear hand, and once that rear hand goes, boom, the other opponent has an opportunity to circle up to that side. Stuff he's usually on top of. He's on the ball so sharp, getting back to the center. And he just wasn't on those P's and Q's, I feel like. And being active, I think, gets you in a place where you're always seeing those openings. Also, I feel like he just wasn't able. And I'll say first, yes, Henry Cejudo did win the 5th round of this fight, but I still didn't feel like he was able to drive up to compete or to maintain a pace that he maintained, say, when he fought Demetrius Johnson and their 5 rounds of going, and he has that big 5th round against DJ. I don't feel like he had that ability to like just fill in all the gaps of the fight with more volume, where like for example, there's moments where, especially rounds like 3-4, where he's getting Cejudo or getting Sterling's back up to the fence and he's not keeping him there. Like he's, rather than, once he gets those moments of separation, he's like resetting in the center of the octagon and inviting Sterling off the fence, because I just don't feel like he had that juice to really like push a pace he normally does. But with all that being said, I think Aljamain Sterling looked fantastic, and there's no fluke in Aljamain's game at all. And yeah, I'll say that for sure.
That kind of like brings us to another point to go on to that, like to just reference an earlier part in the fight. Like we saw him go against Marlon when Marlon was kind of putting on him a little bit, and he didn't really look tired. Yeah, he was losing, but he didn't look tired. He didn't look weathered. He was able to come back and end up winning the fight. And even in the first round, during some of the wrestling exchanges, he looked a little tired. You can see him breathing a little heavier. You know what I mean? So going on to your point about ring rust, I feel like that was clearly evident for Henry Cejudo all throughout the fight, not being able to keep a consistent pace, but that's also to complement the sort of pace and tempo that Aljo was pushing onto him as well.
Yeah. But with that being said, even with that context, this is still not an asterisk performance for Aljamain Sterling. I think we can agree. This might be one of his best wins.
Yeah, but if you're nitpicking, of course, that's what you're going to say about the whole 3-year thing. But this is definitely his best win, I would agree.
But one of Cejudo's best wins is against Dominic Cruz, coming off 4 years.
No,
yeah,
for sure. No, I don't.
sure.
I don't disagree.
So all 3 of us picked Henry Cejudo to win. I want to know where we went wrong. Like, what did we not foresee? I'll go first quickly. Number one, the biggest thing is that Henry Cejudo, and this, I didn't expect him to not come out with the karate stance. To me, he looked like he hasn't like had the same super bladed like McGregor stance in every fight since he first introduced it against Wilson Hayes. But he was in a more of a boxing stance, except still with like the chin up as if he was in the karate stance. So he wasn't in that smooth karate stance movement in and out. And so that just threw me off for a loop, where now you're in a position where you're just as open as you were before for the calf kick, but now you don't have that in and out movement that you did in the karate stance. So the calf kicks definitely, like a few of them spun them around. So he didn't respond to those super well that Sterling threw. And I just didn't foresee him not prioritizing that in and out movement that I expected him to. And even though Aljo's way longer, I thought Cejudo would be a lot, like just based on how he was able to close the distance on Marlon over time, and even in moments against DJ, who obviously is not the same like length and stature of Sterling, but typically he's been so good at like using his right kick to like throwing punches off of kicks and using kicks to get inside for his punches. There was almost none of that in this fight. But just hanging out in the mid range, I just felt like that was through a lack of respect for Aljo striking, and I thought what he would do is, right, like feinted Aljo. Every time Aljo came forward, he would slide back and keep him outside of range. And once Aljo overcommitted, boom, he'd hold his ground and intercept him with a knee or with a right hand. And he didn't do that. He just felt comfortable just kind of boxing with him. And when you're in Aljo's range and that's where he can, like in that mid range, that's where Aljo can poke you and you can't really touch him. And next thing you know, even though he's not really hurting you, he's just piling up striking numbers numerically and winning rounds. So, Henry not coming out with that game plan and that karate stance threw me for a loop.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's probably one of the biggest takeaways I had from him was just the fact that he wasn't, countering as effectively as he could be, and the range that he was really he should have been utilizing. He wasn't. That was my biggest takeaway as well. I just felt like also I didn't see that like we were talking about earlier, just like that go in him anymore. At the end of that fight, like DC was even saying it, like he in his corner was yelling it at him. It was probably time for him to kind of bite down on that mouthpiece and just kind of try and get this fight a little bit dirty, and you didn't really see it out of him. So I just feel like all that stuff was kind of missing from Cejudo.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Just to backpack on that point, like I feel like it's tough to ask someone to do that after a hard fought 20 minutes, being out for 3 years, and the way Aljo was able to negate that type of damage while someone's just pressing forward. Because he was able to do it against Jan later on in the fight. He just kind of dives at the ankles, takes those false takedowns or whatever he calls them, and he kind of avoids damage that way. Is he winning rounds? No, but he's staying safe because he already bagged 3 of them. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's why it's a little hard for it's not easy to say, oh yeah, pull the trigger, bite down on the gum shield, and go for it. Because Aljo is just really herky-jerky, dive at the legs, shell, do that stupid thing that Charles Oliveira does when he's on the ground. I hate that. And he just, well, it's effective, isn't it?
It is, but it's so annoying.
It's a bit silly to watch. But even with that said, I feel like it's just tough like I said, it's tough to say, bite down on the gun show, go for him. Because Aljo does, even though he has really awkward defensive movements, he does stay safe for the most part. And just to back on what Eric said earlier, we haven't really seen him take many of those clean, oh man, he's in trouble shots. You know what I mean? And that's kind of a testament to his defense as well. So
and he plays a risky game. Like it's not like he's
he does,
putting himself in the pocket, but he's good enough with his, like, obviously he does a lot of leaning off to the side, which could get you in trouble, but he just mixes up what he's doing just enough where you don't pick up on the tendency to really capitalize with a head kick or something. You know what I mean? It's really impressive. And he gets hit with a lot of shots, but not the big one. So that's important. Hayden, do you think again, the fight obviously didn't go as we saw, but do you think did the grappling play out as expected for you? I mean, Aljamain Sterling was able to take down Cejudo 3 times in this fight.
Yeah,
Cejudo got some takedowns. How did it go?
So for me, like, again, not to shine my own wheels from what I said in my breakdown that I got 300 views, but I feel like for the most part it did get neutralized, just to use that word loosely, because it wasn't a lot of success.
Who got neutralized? Cejudo or
Sterling? The pair of them.
Yeah,
I feel like they both didn't really sustain much success or cause much damage when they were able to secure the takedowns or get in an advantageous position. So that's why I feel like I'm confident to say that I feel it kind of got neutralized a little bit. Aljo definitely did have a little bit more success. Henry was doing a really good job of closing off that hook so he couldn't get back up, switch the hips, get back up. A lot of good work from Cejudo defensively that I feel like we all knew he had. But, I feel like the grappling, for the most part, played out like the way I expected. And I'm happy to see Henry keep Aljo off of his back for the 25 minutes. Well, for the most part, keeping him off of his back and not fully locking that body triangle checkmate position.
Yeah.
I guess something I didn't really see Henry struggling so much with Aljo's pressure that I didn't really envision a lot of scenarios where Aljo's got him pinned against the fence and, using his leverage.
I had that written down as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So just because Cejudo was really, I guess, confident in the early rounds to just kind of try to pull Aljo into a big shot, it resulted in him getting pressured. And man, when it comes to pure wrestling, typically short and stocky is the way to go, right? And
Hmm.
Cejudo's he's short and stocky, especially for
Yeah.
135, and obviously as Olympic gold medalist. So, but obviously this is not wrestling, and when you have a cage involved, it changed everything, right? Typically, you want to be low, you want to be short and stocky. That low center of gravity keeps you balanced. You're closer to the ground, which means like shorter time to level change, like to get
Hmm.
down to level change, short amount of time to sprawl. But on the fence, I think something I should have considered more is that on the fence, length is important in
Yeah.
wrestling, right? Like
Look at
Whether
Charles
it's
guys that are
Oliveira.
you said Charles
whether
Oliveira,
yeah
who get
whether it's
double
defensive.
underhooks.
Yeah, totally.
My fault.
If you're for like good defensive wrestlers like Izzy, even Ian Gary, guys really struggle to take him down on the fence because he is tall, and
Height
it's
always
hard.
wins.
Yeah, and for when you're offensive wrestling, as Aljo was, right, when he gets his underhook, like he can almost, and he can use the fence to help him. He can almost take Henry off his feet,
Hmm.
create leverage that way, turn him back around, and sit him
Yeah.
down.
Do you think
All
it's
balance
also
on the
because
feet.
against the cage, the taller guys can also kind of split their base out further? Because you see like
100%.
Henry
100%.
Cejudo with his little stubby legs doing the splits, trying to just break Aljo's grip, where like someone like Izzy
It
could
totally
just
plays a factor. Yeah, it totally plays a factor. It like the whole like TJ's D1, Aldo's D3, Henry's Olympic gold medalist. It doesn't like the cage changes, like the fence changes everything.
and
But
like
yeah,
every time you get punched in the face, that like
Yeah, of
division level just goes down and down.
Oh yeah.
That goes well said. Yeah.
Yeah.
And as for Cejudo, like I never really expected him to. I thought maybe he'd mix up some like reactive takedowns if Aljo was really like rushing to close the distance and giving up some easy level changes. But I never really thought Henry would get much going on the ground, just because Henry, honestly, traditionally, he's not like on the ground.
Not known for his top pressure.
He's a bit lay and pray. Like he locks himself in half guard, figure
Minimal
fours his
submission
legs,
threat.
and just does. He's really good at doing like just enough activity to not get stood up. And they don't typically stand you up in half or side control.
Right.
So I didn't really expect him to do too much. And Sterling, man, just the threat that he presents, it really does command a lot of respect. So it was influencing the fight, even if he wasn't body triangle on the back.
Because that's why I feel like
way.
that was the point I was bringing up with the turtle. I feel like he has like such a good
Yeah.
submission threat that like a lot of guys just don't want to risk trying to take the back or trying to get on the side of the turtle and risk any sort of leg lock entanglement or something. But anyways, so just to kind of wrap up this fight, I want to ask y'all a question real quick. I feel like I know y'all's answer, but I just want to see. I just want to go Eric and then Hayden. Is Aljamain Sterling the greatest bantamweight of all time?
I will say, absolutely not.
Okay, Hayden.
Now, if it was as easy,
No, he's not.
as,
No, he's not. I'm agreeing with Eric. Thumbs
Okay.
up to
Yeah.
Eric. No, he's not.
if it was if everything was as black and white as the numbers say they are, then Khabib would get no respect in the grand scheme of things. Then Jose Aldo would be the greatest featherweight of all time, no arguments whatsoever.
Well, he is, but
But as Hayden says, performances totally matter.
thank you,
And I
bro.
feel like how Dom Cruz was absolutely bamboozling people. Like he was embarrassing people, even if he wasn't finishing.
Yeah.
Thank you, bro.
You just had to see it. You just had to see it.
You got to be there. You just had to be there, mate.
Even the split decision over T.J. Dillashaw was
TJ
still
Dillashaw-
people were mind blown because T.J. Dillashaw was the one.
Thank
he was
you.
the one.
Thank you, bro. TJ, for my money, TJ at that level is the best competitor that Aljo's ever competed against, like in comparison, right? So that split decision win, whatever you was closer, that split decision win has more merit, in my opinion, than any of Aljo's wins. On top of beating, knocking out Matsugaki. Thank you, Matsugaki.
Steve Mazzagatti. Sorry.
In the first round when he was coming off of a 5-fight win streak. Come on, mate. Performances fucking matter. I understand you come from a basketball standpoint where you look at black and white numbers, who has better numbers. It's not like that in MMA. You have to look at the performances and how dominant he was, how ahead of the time you could say he was. Dominic Cruz is still the bantamweight GOAT. Now, Aljo is 100% top 3. No doubt about it.
I'll give it to him, honestly. Yeah.
You have to.
You
Yeah.
have to. He
He's
goes out
3
there and
behind TJ.
I would agree with you. We're gonna keep that to ourselves, sorry, because I feel like we get a lot for that. Again, you have to be there to understand like the two Belal performances.
TJ was fantastic, man.
Right, I had like those two Belal performances again. I would put those two Belal performances against any of Aljo's performances again. But that's another story for another
Especially
day.
given how hot Belal was.
But yeah, so it's Dom, TJ, Cruz. Excuse me, Cruz,
Whoa.
TJ, Aljo.
I'm not mad at that.
Fair enough.
Well, you
Jens,
because that's
Jens,
what it is.
so Jens, is your opinion that he's the greatest bantamweight of all time? If so, why?
So at first I was like, I'm thinking he might be.
Tell him why first. Tell him who put it into you.
Okay, yeah, and then me and Hayden started having discussions, and I'm like, you know what? He's right. Because ultimately, I was just looking at just like the UFC.com record and just letting that, and then I really started to think about just the context. And like everyone on my video on my recent TikTok was like, dude, context. And I was like, oh, there's context in Dominic Cruz's wins, but really there's not. Like, it's dominations over Uriah Faber.
The fact that he was coming back after always after 2, 3, 4 year layoffs was makes him even greater.
Right, and like you could use that against him, but at the end of the day, like you said, like that's almost giving his case more merit because it's like he was able to do all that with the crazy amount of injuries that would have ended anyone's career. Yeah. Okay, well,
and he's 2-time.
Yeah, and so
if I may add that.
No, yeah, of course, and so
Guys,
yeah.
No, go ahead. Finish your.
Well, I was just saying with that, we should probably move on to the co-main event.
I just want to quickly ask: is there anything left for Henry Cejudo to do? And do you guys want to see him fight again? Retire?
I don't want to see him fight again.
So, if I may, I feel like I say this about a lot of people, but it definitely stands for Henry. The sport is better when he's around. Does the sport need him? No, the sport doesn't need anybody. We say that a lot. But with that said, I feel like the sport is better with him around. I would like to see him fight again. The Merab fight, just from a fan standpoint, I love that. I'm sorry to tell you, it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? They're not going to jump Corey. It's just, you know what I mean? They could. I don't think they're going to toss him Jan. They're not going to toss him Rob. So where does he go is the biggest question. How much time does he need off?
Why can't they toss him Jan? Why can't they do Jan?
I don't think that.
That'd be awesome.
I agree. No, I agree. I just don't think. I just think as far as time frames go, Jan wants to go soon. So, but yeah, I do. If I had to reside one side, I unfortunately would say he's going to retire, but I want him to fight again. I just don't know against who right now. I don't want it to be Cheeto either, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, I don't know. It would kind of hurt my heart to see him not fight for a title, and that's ultimately what's going to happen. But either way, we got to.
He just fought for a title.
Well, I'm saying like in the future, like it's going to hurt my heart to see him have a fight where he's not fighting for the title. But all right, we got to move on to the co-main event, and let's do this one just a little bit more quickly. Gilbert Burns versus Gilbert Burns versus Belal Muhammad. Belal Muhammad wins via unanimous decision. Eric, do you want to toss out any sort of question or kind of you got any ideas here?
I want to know what you guys think. So obviously Gilbert Burns, Dana White said, and I think Gilbert confirmed that he screwed his shoulder up in when he first attempted the takedown in the first round, and he was effectively fighting with one arm for the majority of the fight. I want to know first, you guys. How much does this fight change if Gilbert doesn't injure himself in the first round?
I was gonna say, go ahead, Jens. I've been taking the reins a lot.
I'll go first.
Go ahead, Jens.
I don't think this fight changes much at all, and it's because I just don't think Gilbert Burns has a deep enough bag striking wise to, try and close that distance on Belal. I don't think so. I mean, maybe every now and then, but to consistently, I don't think so. And I feel like there's a reason why Gilbert kind of he has that meme about him getting stunned with the jab every single time. It's because I feel like his entries and his exits are kind of elementary, and I use that word a lot to talk about it. It's because I feel like he doesn't come in at any sort of different type of angle. He doesn't exit at any sort of type of angle. I feel like it's just straightforward, straight back. And then as far as his striking repertoire goes, there's not a whole lot. It's like overhand rights, bing, bang, boom, you're knocked out. I just don't think he has that bag. I think he's got to get a deeper bag if he wants to compete with someone who can effectively fight on the back foot like Belal can. Belal can fight pretty well on the back foot, and he showed that.
He can, totally.
I don't think that's to say Burns can't beat him.
He can.
He can. I picked Belal to win. But that's not to say Burns can't beat him, because Burns is the better grappler. But to answer your question, Eric, generally spoken, like the bad general level, it'd be silly to say a guy that didn't go in there 100% wouldn't have done better, right? But that bears the question, what would have he done better?
Right.
Because for my money, in order to beat Belal, you need to have heavy hands, like Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal has great takedown defense, and he has heavy hands. Burns does too. Burns can crack, but he doesn't hit like Jeff Neal. His positioning is not like Jeff Neal. You know what I mean? His focus isn't boxing like Jeff Neal, and that's why I feel like Belal had a really tough time with someone like that. But like I said, that bears the question of what would he have done different, and I don't know what that answer would be. So I feel like we would have got the same outcome.
Yeah.
I think it's tough to say. Like, there's definitely on like a micro scale. There's definitely things like he was really struggling dealing with that beautiful left body kick.
That left kick.
But I mean, if he could throw his left hand, like he was trying to parry it across his body, block and parry it, and if he had his left hand, he could like a good counter would be to throw his left hook, parry into the left hook, like Adrian Yanez does all the time. And typically that left hook is a pretty good counter weapon for him. And if he could have got the fight to the ground, and I think he could have eventually, like I would have been interested to see like
being up against.
I think the fight overall is more competitive, obviously, if he's healthy. But with that being said, Belal Muhammad honestly just fought the perfect Gilbert Burns fight. I mean, if you can just touch him with straight shots, it's a pretty simplistic game. All Belal did was, switch subtly between southpaw and orthodox, mostly southpaw. Just touch him with 1-2s and circle him into the left kick for your power shot, and just touch him, just poke him with straight shots, and don't make the big mistake. And that's kind of what I feared for Belal would happen, that over this amount of time in the first like 2-3 rounds, that he would kind of circle into an overhand right and make the big mistake. But huge credit to Belal for not, falling into any of those traps and just staying so disciplined, just touch him. And Gilbert, I think, to Jens's point about not having the that deep of a bag, obviously he's a guy who just loads up, throws everything into every shot, and doesn't really solve a lot of problems on the feet, in my opinion. Like, what you see is what you get. It's been this way with Gilbert for so long. And if you're just touching him and he can't deal with you and time you and find his counters, he just becomes continuously less dangerous as the fight progresses and his power depletes.
Kind of like that with Belal as well, though, isn't it?
No, Belal just touches, keeps going. He's just accruing points.
But I'm saying if guys were able to put it on him, you know what I'm saying? If Belal was the one on the back foot and getting touched up continually.
Well, yeah, like Bilal's not a guy that like Max Holloway. He's not great at fighting from behind because he doesn't really have finishing ability. But
right, I think someone like a Colby Covington, because Belal isn't really as dangerous as it is. Let alone if you're getting teed up on a little bit for 3 rounds, your dangerous level continually drops. So I feel like if a Colby Covington
Gilbert
was in front of him,
needs that dangerous level. Like Gilbert, unless it's old ass Tyron Woodley, he's not cruising to 50-45 over anybody. It's just not his fighting style.
I mentioned that as well for sure.
You know what I'm saying? So. It's just Belal fought the perfect Burns game plan. Obviously, it'd be more competitive otherwise. But so that's my next question. Like, where are we at with Gilbert Burns now? Like, can we still say? Depends how you define it, right? My question was going to be: can we still truly say he's an elite fighter? And I guess it depends how you describe elite. Let's say it's just like, is he someone that could realistically ever hold a title in his hands? If that's how you want to define elite, where are you guys at on Gilbert Burns now?
So like, I'm kind of hesitant to call him like at that like Cerrone stage if you're picking up what I'm putting down. But at the end of the day, for my money anyways, his title aspirations are probably at an all-time low. Granted, he didn't spend a shit ton of time like for his next title run after losing to Usman, but that's just it. I feel like that was his big downfall for this fight. You know what I mean?
The same shit that was his downfall in the Usman fight, like, still on display.
And that's exactly my point. You know what I mean? So it's like, now he's going to have to not go to the back of the line, but you get what I'm saying. He's going to have to go back and get 2-3 more wins. And in division, in my opinion, that's only getting deeper. And he's only getting older. He only has more miles on the engine. So that's what it's not that he's elite. Because I'll tell you what, if you're an up-and-coming welterweight, you sidestep Gilbert Burns as fast as you can. You follow what I'm saying? But with that said, he has to find he has to fight the Shavkats. He has to fight the Jeff Neals. I probably wouldn't be putting my money on Gilbert in those fights.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Well, it's just one of those things where it's like, is it realistic? I don't think so. I mean, like, what is he, even if he would have beaten Belal, he would have ran into either Colby or Leon, and both those, fights are kind of iffy for him, especially the Leon fight. Colby's a little bit of a better matchup, but still, it's a tough go.
Yeah, I kind of drew...
something big has to change in his game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he has to actually
kinda drew-
evolve.
I kind of drew comparisons between the co-main event and the main event. Like the winning performances, I was like, you better not call out the champion. You cannot win. You know what I'm saying? Like, you better not call out Vulcan. You better not call out Leon.
You
know
don't
what
think
I'm saying?
Belal deserves a title shot?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to say is, with a performance like that, you're telling me you have the weapons to stop Leon?
Oh, I get it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was curious. Like, I want to know. Like, do you guys see what you need to see from Belal to suggest he has a chance to beat Leon? Because me personally, I think Leon's about as tough as it gets for a matchup for him, just based on Leon's counter wrestling ability. Some of the good stuff, the crafty stuff he does on the ground, and just, I mean, I guess Belal's kind of finding his world on the feet as a an outfighter almost, like even against Luque, fighting off the back foot as the outside fighter against the guy trying to walk him down.
Yeah.
Against Gilbert Burns, the long guy switching stances, throwing long range weapons, just poking at him. That is Leon's game, and you're not going to be doing it better than Leon, who's just faster, more diverse. That's tough for him, but he deserves it.
Right. We saw a full round of it, and it looked like it was going to be Leon's fight. It's only one round, but
Yeah, it's only one round. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you can't really do that.
All right, guys. Moving on here, if you guys are good with that
Yeah,
fight.
Yeah. Do we just kind of want to just go through the rest of the main card and kind of just give quick thoughts?
Yeah,
I
I'd
wanna-
love to.
Sure. Okay. So what was the third fight? Was that Evelev versus Lopez?
No, it was your girl on Josh.
Oh right, Andrade getting KO'd.
The one that dropped Rose on her head. UFC 237. You remember that one?
That's
I know how it does.
I remember.
Ah!
Anyways,
night.
so Jessica Andrade got knocked out by Jean.
Yan Xiaonan. With some respect. That's my Yan now.
Yan.
It's purity. That's my Yan.
Oh, you're
now.
bandwagoning Jan's. That's crazy.
Hey,
Um,
I booked on her last fight. Who's she
That's
fighting?
great.
Mackenzie Dern.
Yeah, she.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay. See, that's my shorty.
She's another one that's Strawweigh's got a few girls like Marina Rodriguez, her.
She had a
others.
tough outing, but can we kind of shift gears a little bit?
Quickly.
I can't even say her name. Vilna Janjarova.
Janjarova, yeah.
Why does nobody speak about her? I feel like, and I'm going to submit this now, and I should have said this years ago. She is probably the most underrated fighter in the UFC. As far as her skill set and her dominance goes, nobody speaks about her at all. When's the last time you had a conversation about her?
I'll tell you
Never.
this. I'm glad it's no
know the last
longer
time
Drew
you seen her
Dober
lose.
because he sure as shit ain't the most underrated.
Oh, dude, yeah, that
you
takes
better
dead
relax.
now.
You better relax. Okay,
Bro.
he's not the most underrated. Oh, smash.
No,
He's not the most
he
underrated.
never was. If
He
you
never was.
have 20 plus fights in the UFC, you can never break in the top 10. Maybe you're just finally rated.
No, fair dues. He never was the most underrated. But to say he's either overrated or fairly rated, no, I
I'm
don't think
saying
he
he-
ever really. Yeah, all right, carry on.
Okay. I want to give a quick take real quick. Is
Yeah, please.
this the evolution of women's MMA kind of just passing by Jessica Andrade?
No, it's
No.
Andrade. No one will again with Andrade not being able to adapt since 2017, and you know what I mean, just putting her head on keeping her hair on the line and just swinging for the fences.
Well,
Like she's been, you know what you get when you're watching her fight.
Right, and what I just meant by that was
No. That's not true either. She's demonstrated when she's focused, like in the second Rose fight, like she can be really mindful about her entries and her head movement. And
How long ago
I
was
think
that ago?
that was
the
2020.
second Rose fight, that's 2020.
2020.
And
No, I was
and
genuinely
a few
asking,
fights-
so I don't remember.
Yeah, okay. But I think this is much more with her just having so much success up a weight class, at flyweight, at strawweight, and just having just a lack of respect. Just not fearing Yan Xiaonan, and just the way she was marching her down and
Yeah.
just with shitty technique. We've seen so much better from Jessica Andrade, so much more mindfulness. I feel like she had no respect for the power coming back her way, and obviously
She did the same thing against Blanchfield, didn't she? If I remember that fight correctly.
she
Got me,
fight Aaron
coach.
Blanchfield.
Or wait, what am I? Andrade. Who'd she fight last?
fight?
You talking about Talia? Not Talia.
Well, she did fight Aaron Blanchfield in her last fight. Sorry.
Yeah,
I totally
didn't
forgot.
Blanchfield just
Sorry,
start to
my bad,
piece
my
her
bad, my
up
bad.
before the?
She was definitely connecting on some counter strikes for sure. But I'm just I feel like going down a weight class, she didn't.
No.
I don't think she respected. You don't chase someone down with 3 straight left hooks. You don't ever really want to chase. If someone's cutting off on that angle into their they're going towards their power side, it's good to cut off with the left hook, but you don't chase them with the left hook because you're just going right into their power hand. And huge credit to Yan Xiaonan. As I was going to say earlier, there's definitely some quite a few. It's interesting to see like quite a few strawweights that are making big splashes that have like not great grappling whatsoever, which is kind of Yan Xiaonan. And Zhang Weili's going to smoke her when they fight. So moving on, shall we?
Yeah. So then we get to Evelev versus Lopez. Man, that was kind of a thrilling fight. I mean, like going into that fight, Lopez had pretty much nothing to lose, and he gave it all he had. Like, dude, the crazy submission attempts, man. He was catching Evelev a couple times on the feet too. It was pretty fun.
Do you think realistically that's as good as he could have done given the circumstances?
Yeah.
Talking about Diego?
Yeah.
100p. 100p. My thing is with that kid, like I didn't know that kid from a can of paint. You know what I mean? I could have seen him walk down, my street, and I wouldn't even have blinked. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like
you would have said something about his goofy haircut.
in that chess piece, god damn.
Yeah.
Moving on, but anyways, that kid, I don't know his credentials, but he has to be a black belt because of the transitions and the way he was able.
He's Alexa Grasso's grappling coach.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, the transitions he was in, the scrambles, like. He clearly lost the fight, but he put Mosvar in the most danger he's ever been in, and nobody even knew the kid's name.
Dude.
And Mosvar hasn't really fought cans either. You know what I mean? So I was extremely, extremely impressed. That kid has nothing to hang his hat on. I'm so excited for that kid's future. Yeah, I don't know how high he goes, but I'm very excited to see him fight again. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes
I think
you
he
see
should get back in there against a top 15 guy, honestly. Maybe get him a win.
Like a Caceres? Like a Caceres or an
Oh,
Rosa?
sure.
I'd like that.
Yeah.
But,
I will say,
they don't leak the script.
I want to say quickly, like, although, especially at the end of the fight where he had the knee bar pretty much locked up, that
was very Mohayev reminiscent.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite like hitting
No,
the knee
but that
like
was-
that, but could have got to that point if he
Reminiscent.
had more time. But I will say that, and this is kind of a theme on the card with the Kron Gracie fight, that, and I've been watching a lot of Beneil Dariush, this is why this is on my head, but like 2023 MMA, like hanging out in the guard, especially against that wrestler such high level, it's just you're falling behind on points. Again, I think Bisping says it all the time. It's like, what does he always say? Sweep, submit, or get up.
Yeah.
Like it's not where he ultimately, even though he was getting close on the
submissions. Three submissions or get up. 3 submissions and then get up.
Yeah, like even though he came close on a bunch in the first round, well, he didn't really come close. Like,
Yeah, I don't think he really.
the arm bar was never in. There was never actually.
Yeah, there was no elbow.
No elbow. Ultimately, he's falling behind in those moments, even if he's presenting dangers. If I'd rather see him, try out the arm bar. Don't get it. Let's get back to work on the feet where you're
attempt a takedown. Like, oh
sure,
my
get on
God.
top. I would love to see what he could have done in top position.
Dude.
So stuff like that. Like it's just ultimately not where you want to be. And so you take Beneil Dariush, a guy who has some of the highest credentialed outside of MMA, like jiu-jitsu accomplishments. Talking about him arguably beating Kron Gracie in a gi match back in the day as a brown belt. But nonetheless, Beneil Dariush on the ground, he does not play around on his back whatsoever. He immediately, if he has you in his guard, he's immediately turtling. Like he's looking to get on all fours, turtle, and get up from there. Like he doesn't play around on his back. That is a modern, and he's Victor rolling in the leg locks. That's a modern approach to fighting off your back in MMA. So I think that's kind of a theme on this card that I quickly wanted to touch about. Last thing on this fight, guys.
Oh, I wanted to say one thing about Kron.
Me too.
So like
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get there. I just want to know. Evloev, he's 7-0 in the UFC with no finish, with no finishes. Are you guys concerned with like his lack of finishing ability? Do you still think he's on his way to the top and he could challenge for the belt? Where are you at?
So I'll tell you what. He doesn't want to. I'm sorry. Yeah, he doesn't want to see Volk. Volk will really brutalize him. You know what I'm saying? Because like I feel like that's, if you're drawing comparisons, that's probably your closest comparison at featherweight to Islam. And you know what Volkanovski does to Evloev. So right now he definitely there's a lot to work on. I'm not too sure exactly where he is on his age, but I know he's more or less on the younger side. So of course the no finishes are something to be noted. But how dominant he is in these performances, 30-27s almost across the board in every fight, I think that's something more to be.
He's given up some rounds.
Yeah, for sure. But like I said, I feel like his control and his dominance in the way he's able to
I don't
dictate
think
the
he's
fight.
dominant enough. I don't think he's dominant enough to get away with no finishes. To be honest with you,
I can understand that, but I feel like he has
like
a lot of.
he had the split decision he had against Nick Lentz. He got in some trouble in this fight on the feet and on the ground. Like I don't think he's quite. Who did he fight? Did he fight Hakeem Dawodu or no? Or who did or Sadiq Youssef?
No, he fought Dawodu.
Yeah, okay, he fought Dawodu. Like Dawodu had some big moments of rallying late in that fight. I remember, even though Evloev was controlling, and that's kind of what's risky about when you have this, when you're not finishing guys. Like you leave the door open for stuff like Leon versus Kamaru, and obviously that's a bit of an extreme example, but I do think I would like to see him start incorporating some finishing. But I mean, I like some of the stuff he does on the feet. Like he started, once he started getting his feints going, he was pretty good with his entries into the pocket. His exits from the pocket, not so great, but
he's a stellar jab though. He's a really good jab.
He's crafty, and he made some reads, and just based on he saw Lopez really looking for the check hook, and so what he started doing, he started mixing up his timing, and rather than going 1-2, he started just right hand leads that were just landing clean. Like I like the little crafty stuff that he displays, and obviously his wrestling's great. Didn't really follow the hips too well early, and that kind of got him in some trouble, where Lopez was able to shrimp or hip out and go to an armbar. But who do you like more, Topuria or Evloev?
Talking to me?
Either of you.
As far as what ceiling goes?
Hell yeah.
I feel like, I don't want to say the right answer, but as far as finishing ability goes and what we like, the eye test, as you guys like to call it, I think Topuria is the answer you're looking for.
I agree.
But if they go to head, that's an interesting matchup, I think.
Yeah,
I think I like Topuria in that fight, to be honest with you.
I do as well, but it's interesting. Same thing with Bryce Mitchell. I think Bryce Mitchell and Topuria is one of the most interesting matchups in the division right now.
Yeah,
totally. Charles Jourdain got a Gracie out of there. Caron Gracie coming back after
the new Gracie killer.
I think it was 3 years. I think it was
4 years. I think 2019. He's kind of fallen off the map.
4 years.
Came in on fight week.
Looks like he hasn't got a 4 years.
Ironically, that's what every jiu-jitsu black belt tries to look like. They all like to have that scruffy look. So I don't really know what's up with that. But he came in 4 years off, decided to be a dick to everybody at the just all week basically. Showed up and embarrassed himself. Yeah. So any thoughts on that fight, guy?
Absolutely.
I'll say my only Jens, I'll let you take the floor because I know you've been waiting on this one. My one take, and I know not just us three, but no UFC fan bases their takes off of what Dana White says. But I'll say this. What he said, I think, was the greatest way to explain that fight, or to explain Caron Gracie. That was like a time capsule of 1995.
Yeah.
What was that? I mean, like we always talk about the way the game evolves and stuff, and that was like we went in a time machine and went back to '95, mate. Like, and I'm not trying to shit on Jourdain because Jourdain did what he had to do. He fought a very disciplined and a smart game plan. It had flashes of greatness in the fight with his combinations, the way he was very fluid, very flowy, but he just did enough. And Caron was just wasn't asked to be there, and that goes without saying.
Yeah.
Jens, take the floor, please.
So in boxing, one of the biggest complaints people, like the kind of casual boxing fans, have about it is just like how choppy it can get with the clinch work and whatnot. How like there's constant hugging and breaking up. The equivalent to that in MMA is fighters who can't land a takedown to save their lives, have no striking, but just constantly pull guard and then just butt scoot down the canvas. That is the equivalent of the choppiness of boxing. It is so annoying. The Paul Craigs of the world, in certain aspects, the Brian Ortegas. Right. And so there's nothing more frustrating than seeing a jiu-jitsu guy, a high-level jiu-jitsu guy, just not being able to have these skills to utilize what makes him him. That's why I messaged y'all whenever they were saying, oh, this guy's an elite specialist. Are you an elite specialist when you can't even get it to the realm that you're elite at? Like, how elite are you if you can't even get it there? It's like if Alex Pereira had like the takedown defense of a toddler where he couldn't stuff anything. It'd be the equivalent of that. It's like, dude, how elite are you if you can't? Oh, it's so frustrating. That dude embarrassed himself. That's one of the worst performances I've seen in a long time. It's so annoying.
How you really feel.
What did he do?
No, I know.
Honestly, not even like a time machine back to the '90s. It's more of a time machine back to Polis versus Hooker, but a little reminiscent. But man, honestly, love to see it. Love to see it. Honestly, I hope. I'm ready for MMA to move on from the Gracie family, frankly, and I am kind of biting myself in the ass because Naaman Gracie is doing some pretty decent stuff in Bellator, but I'm kind of done with the Gracie family in MMA, and like just
because
the
your name's
stubborn-
Gracie doesn't mean it holds weight. You need to make your name for
it's
yourself.
not even that. It's just the attachment
Nurmagomedov.
to it's just the attachment to quote unquote Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and we still train in the gi, and the gi is still the way, and we reject all the current no gi advancements.
Jen, do you gonna take that,
and-
bro?
No, I agree. The
Jeff
Gracie's,
agrees.
I don't
I'm
like the
over
gi.
this shit.
I'm not a
My
gi
fault.
fan.
And heel hooks don't and leg locks aren't real and all
Yeah.
this crap. I'm just done with it. Like I know you guys. I understand the just incredible contributions you guys have made to obviously grappling and MMA as a whole, but that doesn't mean you can't reject modernity. Modernity? Modernity?
Something like that.
Whatever.
MMA.
All that crap, like it drives me nuts.
Yeah.
You know what the Gracies
And-
are? Sorry, real
What?
quick. The Gracies are the basketball old heads that refuse to acknowledge the
Yes.
3-point shot and just say that you can only live in the post. Those are the Gracies of MMA.
On God, it's the stuff like, and I know Henry Gracie has taken a shit ton of. I don't know if you guys saw this, but like his role as a expert witness in that case about the instructor in California spiking the student on his head and paralyzing him. I don't know if you guys saw anything about that.
Oh, I saw that
saw the
video. I
headline.
didn't see
Yeah,
what
I
he
saw the
said.
headline.
So
Yeah,
I don't give Henry too much flack for that because I get how I understand how courtrooms work. It's never as black and white as it is in the gym.
Here we goes.
Once
Here we goes,
lawyers
Matt.
get involved, like it's just a whole other thing. But it's the stuff with Henry where they're like they have like Gracie University and they sell and like you can get certified under Gracie University and you pay all this money and then all of a sudden they close that program, they open a new program, all of a sudden your certification's no longer valid and you're no longer a Gracie black belt instructor. It's just all this grimy stuff that I want MMA to just let's accept modern MMA. It's not what it used to be. Let's let Cron Gracie, all these other guys, move on. And we have a new in Charles Jourdain. Let's just accept we have a new Sakuraba, Gracie Hunter. So let's go.
I wanted to ask you, Eric, specifically you. What's next for your boy? What's next for Jourdain?
I think Edson Barbosa. That'd be a fantastic fight. I think everybody would want to see that.
I think it's
You
a
wouldn't
good
wanna see
fight.
it?
No, it's a good fight for sure. But as far as Jourdain goes, I don't know. I'm just not like I'm a Jourdain fan, and I don't want to make this me shitting on Jourdain because I'm a bigger fan than I am now. But with that said, I just between like the Nathaniel Wood performance and he was just doing.
Yeah, he's got to
fight.
rebuild. He's rebuilding.
I think Edson, with him being as old as he is, he's still very stiff in the pocket. Sure, it could be a good fight. It's a winnable fight, but it's not the greatest of fights that he could be taking. I think I can't present you a name. It's so easy to point out a problem and not give you a resolution. But I think there's probably a better name you can give Jourdain right now to kind of, like you said, to build in.
But if I'm being real with Jourdain, like I think Nathaniel Wood, and even though Edson Barboza as a pure MMA striker is obviously still to this day probably better overall than Nathaniel Wood. Nathaniel Wood's like the way he was able to dominate in the clinch and take away one of Jourdain's best weapons, where he strikes in the clinch.
Wait, you said Barboza is a better MMA striker than Nathaniel Wood is what you said?
Yeah,
Okay, carry on.
you don't think so?
No.
We can't get into this conversation.
Okay, give me not. Okay, but Nathaniel Wood's overall game takes away so much of what Jourdain does best with his like ability to hit trip or like Osoto Garis and stuff in the clinch, where that's not quite a factor against Barboza, and he beat Shane Burgos without a doubt. So, if we're just being honest about where he's at in his career, okay, maybe it's not the best fight. There's easier fights. Maybe hold on. Give him Billy Quarantillo next, coming off a loss. Banger fight.
Quarantillo.
Wait, Billy versus Jourdain?
Yeah, sure.
I think it's a dangerous fight.
he wants dangerous fights. He wants 50K, man. Fight of the night.
Well, oh, yeah, I think he wants his job more than 50K. To be honest with you.
All right.
Okay, we got to move on.
Sure.
We just got to, even though we don't want to talk about this fight a whole lot because there's not much to talk about, Demetrius Johnson beat Adriano Moraes via unanimous decision. Cool to see DJ still winning. The fight kind of sucked, in my opinion. Lots of clinching. That's about it. Anybody else got anything to add?
I think I'll just say this about one championship: just fix your commentary situation. It is unlistenable, and the amount of just just slurping they do overall, it reeks of like insecurity when you guys have so much to be proud of, and like there's so much that makes you unique from the UFC, but it's just all this just all the ignorance. It's comes through. And first of all, the commentary never knows how to score fights. That's a problem. And they're acting like, okay, basically what I'm saying is all fights are talking about how like DJ looks as good as he's ever looked, when like anybody with a set of eyes can tell you that he looks still so skilled, but like physically and athletically just
slower.
Definitely not as good as the guy that like beat Joseph Benavidez. And they're just like so in denial, and just because they don't want to talk bad of Adriano Moraes, but Adriano Moraes can't throw more than 5 punches in a round without getting tired, and he's just literally holding DJ on the fence. So otherwise, their American debut was fantastic.
Yeah.
And DJ's still awesome. Love him. Still a great win. And maybe I would have preferred to see Cejudo versus DJ3 this weekend, but.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so funny you bring that up because like he throws some elbows from his guard, and they're like, "Oh my God!" Now he's showing his guard play, and he's showing layers to this game, which he kind of is. But also, like, they're like, he's the #1 pound for pound fighter in the plan. It's like, all right, let's calm down. Let's calm down. Well,
easy, Rogan. This ain't 2015 anymore.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, anyways, that's that fight. Do we want to get into some fan questions? We kind of have to rapid fire it just a little bit. We want to do questions.
What are we at for time right now?
57 minutes.
All right. I don't have the questions pulled up. Do you guys have them?
No, I don't.
I can pull them up real quick. I have 2.
I had one on my TikTok. I forgot to send to the chat, but it's probably not that big of a deal.
Here, I'll pull up my 2 real quick. Unless I just okay. Do y'all want me to read mine first?
Yeah, because mine's read all of them because like I said, I don't have mine right.
Okay, so it's 2 from the same dude. This is the homie on TikTok, Don_DADA__02 or Don Dada. He said, "Is Aljo the most disrespected champion of all time?" Let's just kind of rapid fire this.
No. I'd say there's guys that have had better wins that were still getting disrespected, like I don't know, maybe
Sylvia.
BJ Penn.
Yeah, that was the first thing that came to my mind. And I think there's some champions that were fantastic and people just don't remember them or they don't talk about them. Like Jens Pulver before he got inducted to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So
A bunch of even honestly, even like, I mean,
Tim Sylvia caught a lot of shit, and he had some good wins.
Tim Sylvia, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he wasn't a fan favorite. He was kind of a shitbag, but I agree with you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He was disrespected. He had some good wins. Okay.
There's guys the UFC just decided to disrespect, well, for whatever reason, like Randy,
DJ.
Shamrock, and like they just refuse to put them in the Hall of Fame despite their accomplishments. So maybe you
Tito.
could argue them.
Tito's a big one.
Tito, huge one. Yeah, honestly.
Mainly because he's just dumb, but
Yeah. Francis Ngannou's pretty disrespected as the champion.
right.
Even by MMA fans.
He had
But,
one
okay.
decision win, and they're like, "Oh my God, he's not marketable."
Yeah, after he finished every legend on the list.
Okay, does this loss mean Henry's done? We kind of already discussed
Yeah, we already
this.
talked about
We feel
that.
like he should retire. We're both kind
Yeah.
of saying that. Okay.
I would like to see him fight, but he's probably gonna.
Okay. Well, those are my questions. Eric, do you got yours pulled up?
No, I didn't search for them. I'm so sorry.
okay.
Hold on. I guess I have UFC syllabus questions that Hayden sent. If you guys want me to read any of
There you
them.
go. Let's
Sure.
get into them.
How do you guys think Evloev versus Mitchell would have played out had Mitchell not gone injured after seeing how Diego Lopez did on short notice? How do you guys think?
It's a great question.
So like I remember talking heavy with you guys about this fight when it was like talked about a couple of months ago. I think it's very interesting because I feel like when you go head to head with those wrestling styles, it probably cancels out. And who do you think is better on the feet, Evloev and Mitchell? In my opinion, I think it's Evloev. So I probably would have been riding with Evloev just for a small summary for that fight.
Me too. I feel like he had more going for him into that fight.
Yeah, but I don't know. Bryce Mitchell's offensive wrestling is obviously at a pretty high level, and I think Bryce Mitchell getting Evloev on his back. I would have loved to see how that plays out.
Mhm.
Just I don't know. I don't know. I
No,
I would
very,
still
very
I still
interesting
think
fight.
Mitchell has a. I don't know if I learned a whole lot about how it would have played out based on what I saw between Lopez and Evloev, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, for sure.
No, I mean it's anyone's fight. I feel like.
Does Aljo have a chance of winning the belt at 145? I will say no.
No. Sorry.
That's a hard no for Jens.
Dude,
Anyone care to
against
explain?
Volk?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
What are we doing here?
Oh, that is VOLK.
Yeah, anyways.
Yeah, just you're talking about a dude who just went 5 with Islam Makhachev and dominated the 5th round.
Yeah.
What's Aljo gonna do? Would be my question. What's Aljo gonna do?
Right.
Get on his back?
Okay.
Uh,
He's not going to get close to Volk.
Yeah. Okay, guys, that's it.
Okay. Well, we got beef. Anybody got beefs of the week?
My beef of the week is still with the Gracie family. I'm gonna leave it at that. We're
Dude,
moving on.
You took mine. Mine was literally going to be like, my beef of the week is I just want to shit on Kron Gracie again. That performance was unbearable.
You know what my beef of the week is? I got a good one. I just thought of it.
Kron Gracie?
No, off topic. You know, 'cause I want to get a little bit of,
Right.
humanity in here. People that ruin fucking trailers for movies.
Yes.
You know
I
what I'm
hate
saying?
trailers
Like,
in general.
I don't watch them. Let me explain something. So
Yeah.
before this life of MMA, I had another life where I was like a self-proclaimed movie critic. I've seen almost over 1,000 movies. Like I was a big into the thing. So I never watched trailers because for 2 reasons: they either gave it away or it didn't mean fuck all to the movie. There's just no point. But why do you feel the need to ruin trailers or to explain what happened in trailers or to be like, oh, I got midnight release tickets and then go out and post it on Twitter?
Yes.
You deserve. I'm not gonna say that. I can't say that here. But you don't deserve to be treated well. You don't deserve to be treated well.
It's such a dork mentality. Like, I'm calling somebody out specifically.
Yeah, you're a nerd.
The-
You're a fucking nerd.
The new Rockstar's YouTube channel, I don't know if either of y'all watch this dude.
No idea.
He, now, granted, he does post potential spoiler warnings before he gets into it, but still, dude, this dude has, he will figure out, he did this for Endgame. They showed a scene in Endgame where, or even for Infinity War, where Hulk was running towards the thing, he's like, this is actually, he somehow figured it out. He's like, this is actually CGI, and I think it's going to be the Hulkbuster, and I don't think, and then he did that for Endgame, where he's like, they're actually traveling back in time because of these set photo leaks. Like, dude, what are you doing? Yeah. Do you enjoy watching the movie? Do you enjoy...
Totally.
Yeah. Those are weird. I swear, some people will literally wake up and they say, "How am I gonna fuck up someone's day?"
Right.
Start commenting nonsense, mate. This guy Chris Stuckman, somebody I used to watch.
Don't shit on Chris Stuckman, bro.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Oh, that was my dog.
Thank you.
Shout
out Chris
he was
Stuckman.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, shout out Chris Stuckman. For real. But yeah, he would literally post legitimate reviews, or if he was to do a spoiler for big movies like Endgame, it would literally be in capital letters, big bold, spoiler-filled review. Do not watch. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, but yeah, nerds that wake up to try to ruin someone's day, go get your head sorted someplace, you fucking tosser.
Right, Endgame came out, I think, my junior or senior year of high school, and so I saw it that Thursday night, but there were still kids who somehow got, the spoilers online and all that. I would walk, after class was over, before the bell rung, I had my headphones in blaring so I couldn't hear anybody. Yeah. I was going through the hallways blaring my music so I didn't hear.
I used to block hashtags on Twitter.
Yeah, I was plugging my ears. I was doing everything.
Plugging my ears.
Dude, literally, like a child, just I did not want to hear any sort of spoil. Literally, dude, because if someone spoiled that movie, it was on site.
Yeah, I know. I get the poster right there.
Hell yeah.
One of them over there.
I probably got
Iron Man dies.
Oh wait, hold on. I want to show y'all this Funko.
Oh, here we go. I had so many, bro. I wish I could show you guys all the
Jen's
Funkos.
leg reveal. Jen's leg reveal. Take your screenshots now.
No, Jens, I would bully you. Jensy, buddy, I would bully you to the body. Oh, you probably can't hear me.
Okay, well that's really depressing. I don't know where it's at.
Jensy.
Huh.
Hey, you just gave us a body reveal, and bro, I would bully you to the body. One left kick will fucking be hurt.
Hey, flex some biceps real quick for me, my boy.
I will send your kidneys into your liver.
Dude, I have this Captain America Funko Pop.
Yeah,
where
put your dogs out, bro. Put your dogs out.
I had one.
My biceps.
Ramen noodles.
This shirt is literally an extra large. But I bought it because it's the only size they had, and I really wanted the shirt. I had this Funko Pop of Captain America with the broken shield, with Mjolnir. It was so sick. But anyways.
I'm actually the way I sit at my desk. All my Funkos are right in front of me. It's kind of cool. I had 178 at one point. Now I got like 40.
All right, you guys are nerds. That's gonna do it, guys, for this episode of Punching the Clock podcast.
Game
Appreciate
show.
you guys for listening. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video. Ask any comments or ask any questions. Put them in the comments. If you put them in the comments on YouTube, it's guaranteed we'll answer them on next week's show.
For sure.
So yeah, guys, really appreciate you listening. Any last words, gentlemen?
Comment.
Like, comment, share, subscribe. Tell your mother. Tell your friends.
And your dog, Jens.
Comment questions. I like fun questions.
All right, yeah. All right. Well, appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next week.
All right, gang shit,
Peace.
don't lame shit.